Football. It's the world's most watched sport in the world. The amount of investment that spectators give can only be outmatched by the amount of money that flows into the sport. Each season, some new player comes into the limelight, and yet, not a lot of people seem to be able to stay there. So, hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be looking at the careers of 5 such players who had garnered a lot of hype, but couldn't really live up to expectations, and were quickly forgotten by everybody. So, before we get to this video, please, disclaimer, these are just opinions and must not be treated as facts. As confidently as I say them, they are not facts. Number 5. Denilson de Oliveira. By the age of 20, Denilson, as he is known simply, was already ordained for success. He was made by Real Betis in 1998 the most expensive player in the world at just the age of 20. He was a player who was more in tune with today's notion of tricks being a part of the player's repertoire. He had a bag of tricks that made him impossible to stop, and his dribbling was not just skillful, but also elegant and full of tricks that could put a freestyler to shame. Real Betis recognized this talent and decided that it was worth 21 million euros. Putting things into perspective, it was 2 million more euros than what was paid by Inter Milan to Barcelona for Ronaldo Nazario. They didn't rate the goals that Denilson had scored, but rather they rated the Pandora's box of tricks he brought with him onto the football pitch. He was also hyped by the Brazilian team for the 1998 World Cup. He did just fine for a player his age, and while he didn't light the tournament on fire, he did, however, justify his talent by coming on as a substitute in some fine performances. Then a price tag was associated with him, and his stocks didn't rise to the tag. He only ended up scoring 5 goals in 2 seasons. Real Betis, thanks to the failures of their highest stock, also fell in the points table and ended up being relegated by 2000. Turns out that tricks aren't really good enough to get past defenses and, more importantly, the goal. He then did go on to help the team back into the first tier league once again in the next season, but that didn't redeem him. The importance that the team placed on him was starting to wane, and the surge in multifaceted wingers like Joaquin rendered him an expensive player who wasn't that useful. He was good at evading any defender, and once even left the legendary defender Carles Puyol flat on the ground. Yet, he never converted that into goals, and had a poor strike rate of a goal in only 14 matches. By 2013, Denilson had played his last international match for Brazil as well. After completing his 10-year contract in Betis, they let him go, and he played sporadically for a lot of teams. And then finally, at the age of 30, he was not given a chance to play for Bolton Wanderers based on footballing reasons, ending his career in top-flight football. Be it tactical decisions by Betis or their coach's playing style. Yet, maybe it was the trends of football back in the late 20th century and the beginning of the 21st century that betrayed its talent of Denilson, and whatever it was, he wasn't successful, and he ended up fading into oblivion, so rest in peace that guy. Niklas Bendtner could be a poster boy for all the bad boys in football. He started grabbing the limelight as a Danish wonder kid in his early years. He had all that he needed to be a great footballer skill-wise, yet he might have missed out on that needed attitude and focus in his career. He was known to always be pulling some other antics on and off the pitch. One of the most memorable matches that he played was a loss of the Danish team to Portugal 3-2. Yet what made it memorable was the comeback by the Danish team, where Bendtner proved his might as a striking wonder by scoring 2 well-taken headers into the Portuguese net. Yet, that wasn't where the public name came for Bendtner. Rather, it was always his antics that made a name for him. He was called the Lord Bendtner by the fans, not for his footballing prowess, but rather for his relationship with a Danish socialite. However, he didn't have an altogether bad career as such. He was a lad who worked hard to be recognized through the Arsenal Academy. He established himself in the first team of an impressive lineup and a fabulous manager. He scored 30 international goals for Denmark and featured in 2 World Cups for them. He also won titles in Italy and Norway as well. Yet what happened was that people forgot about him and just moved on. It all began when he fought with his strike partner Abadayor in a 5-1 drubbing by their rivals Tottenham. The drama around him always engulfed the football performances. He went on to fight with Arsene Wenger and got loaned out. After a spell of animosity with the manager, he went out on a fee transfer out of the club, after which he faded out of football's attention and plied his trade in the Norwegian league. In a career where he couldn't shake his habits and keep his focus out of distractions, and he lost all the hype and became a laughingstock a lot of the times, very sadly. He was touted to be an heir to the legacy of the English great David Beckham on the right side of the pitch for England. And then life happened and his career took him from being a professional to being the owner of a Spanish bar. Just like everybody on this list, he too was very highly regarded in the highest circles of European football. Yet, he also couldn't live up to all the build-up about his career. Another alumni of Arsenal Academy that has over the years contributed to a lot of stars is David Bendtner. He still proved himself to be a quality player who could withstand the difficulties of playing in the English Premier League. He did just that when he played for Blackburn Rovers for 2 years. And then Tottenham came knocking at his door after recognizing his performances for Blackburn. The team was struggling, and so did the midfielder in the team. Yet things never went well for him after that, and he would never get the kind of performances in the Tottenham Hotspurs as he did for Blackburn. He fell from the favors of the manager and ended up not even in the squad of the club after the €16.5 million transfer. He was then sent out on money loan stints as well, which didn't really help either, and his career kind of fizzled out. July 2001, Geisca Mendota was bought by Lazio for €46 million. He was coming there on the back of having played 2 Champions League finals for Valencia FC and having been a star midfielder. Yet he turned out to be one of the biggest flops in Serie A history. The president of Lazio, Sergio Cragnati, was known to splurge money on players. There was nothing wrong with the choice of midfielder, as Mendota had won a Spanish Super Cup and a Copa del Rey as well. Yet, maybe there were a few scars of losing those finals, especially in the penalties against Bayern, which might have discouraged him. And then it got all worse because Mendota started to miss easy chances in front of the goal. And a lot of people attributed it to bad luck or just taking time to get used to the style of football in the new setup of Lazio. But he just started turning into a ghost and therefore stopped impacting the game at all. He was scoring easily 10 to 20 goals for Valencia, but wasn't able to repeat this magic for Lazio. Things became so bad that the patient fans who gave him the benefit of the doubt early on started to show their disappointment. They spread an urban legend that Geisca Mendota had died and Valencia had just sent over his cousin or a lookalike to get the deal going. When he was the best player in the Champions League a year ago and within the passing of another year, he was declared the Golden Bogus of the Year for the 2001 and 2002 year. He was led on loan to Barcelona when Robert Mancini arrived, who would then revolutionize Lazio. Later on, he was sold to English clubs and just forgotten about like everybody else on this list. Until now, we're doing him a solid. Fredy Iu was the original wonder kid, a football protege of sorts, and someone who was already in the limelight. He was the dream of a 14-year-old kid because by the age of 14, he was already in the eyes of the public who loved football, and his name was thrown just about everywhere as the next big thing in football. Fredy Iu was the 14-year-old who signed a professional contract with DC United in Major League Soccer. He was at the highest of his career, but then, as it is at the highest of heights, you fall the furthest. Which is pretty much how the story of Fredy Iu reads. 8-year-old Iu had moved in with his family from Ghana, where he was playing football with 24-year-olds and absolutely dominating them for fun. Just 6 years is all it took for DC United to make him the youngest professional athlete in the USA. Almost immediately he scored a Nike deal and other sponsorships and was starting to make rounds. His Pepsi ad alongside Pele is one of the most iconic pictures of Iu out there and even gave him a tag he had to run from, the next Pele. And then on the football ground, he became the youngest ever to score in the MLS, which was enough to get the attention of Sir Alex Ferguson. Yet, not being able to receive the work permit had forced him to leave to go back to the US. He was still performing pretty well for his age, but still, coaches saw no improvement and change in his potential. He wasn't growing as well as they would like him to grow, and performances took a dip. He had scored 7 goals in the 2005 season that became 6 in the next season. Finally, he took a transfer to Real Salt Lake in 2007. Yet, he did well in the U20 World Cup where he scored 2 goals and gave 11 assists, which forced Benfica to take him at $2 million. He scored 17 goals in the first season, but then he was still sent out on loan because he failed to impress and was shipped on back to MLS to be completely forgotten. Even his international career was pretty lackluster. He only scored 2 goals in 17 caps. From Philadelphia, where he played for MLS, he was transferred to Brazil. Now he's just a coach in Maryland after he was deemed mentally and physically unfit to play by Tier 3 Swedish team Österlen FF. Instead of ushering him as quickly as he was, if only teams had allowed him to grow at his own pace instead of putting all these expectations on a poor kid, there could have been maybe a different career trajectory for him, which ended the hyped and most awaited yet tragic career for Fredy Iu. So if you enjoyed the video, please like, subscribe, all that fun stuff that you've never heard before once in your life. And also, if you want to prevent the zombie apocalypse, press that notification bell. That might be a bad one. I kind of want a zombie apocalypse. Anyways, later.